Because I'm like, guys, I'm determined to stay up to beat him to it because, now it's in my head.
Yeah, now
and
it's in your system.
I want to beat him. So I was just like, what time is it? And I like had it typed out and I was just waiting so I could hit send. And then I could go to sleep.
Right, send.
I'm old and 12 o'clock is it's very late for me. And he said something like, oh, you beat me. And I was like, yeah, dude. Yeah. And then I went to sleep.
I was like, no. We were going back and forth about them doing fireworks and shooting guns until like 1 a.m. And the poor neighbor's dog was over there.
Oh, I did stay up a little bit longer.
That poor dog lives outside.
I think maybe I started talking to him and I woke up a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, and it was cold, and that poor dog was out there going absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. That did happen.
From all the loud noises. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we did that for New Year's, and then it kind of just slowly, like the momentum just kept building and building and building, and
it did because of the car.
Yeah.
Because after the initial check,
the transmission fluid needed to be changed.
Jeff needed to change the transmission fluid, so we had to order the transmission fluid.
Yeah.
And then we had to drain the transmission fluid.
I did it.
And then slowly fill the transmission.
Well,
you don't have to explain the car thing to people.
Yeah.
If you guys really want to know,
okay, the way what you do is
let me know, and I will point you to my lovely fiance. He will explain all the car things.
Yes.
He loves to explain the car things. It makes him happy. Okay, so really, it's not a problem if you want to know.
Do you want to know?
Let me know.
If you don't want to know, just
I will let you know. But the transmission whole thing did kind of help with
because
we weren't dating at all.
No.
Which I had to keep telling some people because it's like, what do you got? I'm like, we're just a friend. We were standing 6 feet apart, if not more,
for most of the time.
And in the garage, we never went anywhere. We didn't get food. We didn't get food.
I think I offered a bottle of water.
Yes.
Bottom line. Mm-hmm. Just because it was cold out and the air was dry, then you go in the garage with a heater and then it dries you out even more.
Mm-hmm. But that.
And then the only reason probably kept talking was because I had the heater in the garage. Mm-hmm. So it was somewhat livable. Mm-hmm. And would just kind of just start talking about various life things while waiting for the fluid because I didn't heat the fluid, so it was like trying to pour syrup.
So we had a couple of
so we had a couple of nights,
friendly
Saturday nights
car
centric
type.
The car was
working its hardest to make sure we were spending some time together, and the car did its job.
Yeah,
I would go over and be like, oh, I'll probably only be over there for a little bit.
6 hours later.
And I would text like my father or my sister, like, yeah, I'm just going to run over to Jeff's. He's going to do something on the car. And then like I'll text you when I'm like home or, when we're done.
Then 13 hours later, hey, I just got home. Did you forget?
On
no, I just
average,
got back.
It was probably like 3 to 4 hours at least.
I was going to say, it was probably about 3 to 4 hours. I think one of the longer ones might have been closer to 6.
Yeah.
But it was probably 3 to 4 hours would say.
And he was really working the whole time, albeit sometimes maybe a little slowly, just because we were talking.
Yeah, just because we were talking.
Yeah, and it wasn't like awkward. It was just very comfortable.
It kept flowing.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh my goodness, what time is it? Then with the garage being closed, you couldn't see the sky.
Oh, fun fact.
And you'd open the garage and it'd be like
it's
dark.
dark out.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh my goodness, how long have I been here? It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I went in the garage, because I went in the garage, had the heater fired up, and I literally went in the garage and shut the door and had like a mini panic attack because I was like, oh no, we ain't like that. And I don't want her to think there's like, oh, now you in my dungeon or whatever. And I was like, I quickly went over, like, I never have the door unlocked. Like, it's usually buried behind about 83 different things. If there's a fire, if that big door don't open up, you're going to burn. I like quickly like knocked stuff over to make sure that the door, like I just opened and shut the door just to prove that the door opened and closed, and was like paranoid about standing between her and the door because I was like, well, let's let the heat build up, and I shut the big door, and it's like, and it's just like you can't really, the garage is insulated well, so you can't, anyway.
Yeah. He just wanted to make sure I felt safe.
Yeah, I didn't want her to do like the stranger danger.
Awkward.
Because we, at that point, we were still, we were
just
just like, we knew each other, but it was still, it wasn't.
I wasn't really afraid. I think I've always distrusted Jeff.
That's good.
Which I told him. Because he was very concerned about the car. Like, man, if something happens, I think it's in a text. I think I said it and it's in a text where I'm like, Jeff Griggs, I'm pretty sure I trust you more than you trust yourself. And he's just like, yeah. I'm like, no, really, I trust you. It's okay.
Yeah.
I was like, if something goes wrong, I'll just be like, oh, it was the car. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't blame him for it.
Right.
I would just be like, whatever. And he's just like, okay. And I'm like, So yes, car. I'm gonna not fast forward. I'm just gonna jump to the last transmission fill up test. Because that was very important. What?
The Friday before the last transmission fill-up test.
The Friday before?
You did your hair.
Was that before?
That was.
Oh,
you did. So we took...
Never mind. I thought those were flip-flops.
Friday night. No, it was a very packed weekend.
Yeah.
So Friday night, I was out of it. I was just like, I just wanted to be left alone. And had earlier in the week talked about she was going to call me, and I felt like
I can't remember why, but I said I was going to.
Yeah, you were going to call.
Get a story or an
We're going to have story time.
Or
We've been doing story time, and we've been having somewhat short-ish calls.
Yeah. Some
nights during the week, and it was just she was like, "Well,
story time meaning just stories from our lives, not like making up stories."
No, not scary stories.
I heard a story about that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, just like funny humor stories from life.
Yeah.
And had been doing that, and I just having a bad week, and I'd kind of felt like, well, maybe she's just being nice, or...
I was at my parents' house.
Yeah.
It was a lot later than I thought, and I did go home because it was almost 9, and I debated, like, do I call him at 9? Like, that's kind of late, and I'm like, but he's going to be driving. It's not like he's going to be going to sleep. I'm like, well, I have to do my hair.
Mm-hmm.
I was putting in some long twists. It was going to take a while. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be up, then I might as well call him.
Right.
Because I'm going to be awake. I know he has to stay awake, so whatever.
And in all fairness, by this point in time, I had been driving every night for going on 2 months. So this was a completely normal part of the schedule for me.
Yeah.
I had kind of like just known that some nights I wanted to talk to people, so I would talk to people. Other nights I'd just be quiet. But anyway, this was a completely normal, so it was like story time she had talked about. And I was like, I don't want to get too pushy. I'm taking up a lot of her time. So
I didn't want to break my promise. I have a thing. I was like, but I told him, how would you feel if someone said, I'm going to call you? Then they didn't. I was like, I better call him.
So she called as I was coming up, just to give the people an idea of where I was approaching the tunnel coming down the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And that's about halfway from the Turnpike getting on in Pennsylvania all the way out to Pittsburgh. Talked to her the rest of the way out to Pittsburgh, which was about another hour-ish. And then I got out to the rail yard, and I would normally take a nap just because to kill the hour to go back home. And then, joy of joys, they start loading the train, which I think they intentionally make as much noise as humanly possible. They come bang trash can lids together right next to the truck if they can, just to increase the noise. Anyway, they started loading the train. I was like, well, I'm not getting any sleep. And she's still doing her hair.
Yeah, he did keep checking in, like, are you still doing your hair?
Yeah, I was just like,
are you still doing your hair? And then he would be like, well, if you're still doing your hair, then I guess, I'll just stay on the phone with you. I'd be like, oh okay. Like, it was... talking to me.
It was.
All right, that's fine.
I was like, well, I've talked to her for a while
he would
now.
wait like an hour or two, be like, you still doing your hair? And I'd be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, now just keep going. I'm like, okay.
it was kind of a case of I was just like, I mean, I'll keep talking. I mean, if you want to talk, you're looking for someone to talk to keep you awake.
I was awake.
Um,
I was just staying awake for him. Like, because he has so many words. That's all I kept saying. I was secretly, I will admit this, secretly texting my sister up until it was a ridiculous time of the night. But I'm like, Ryan, he's still on the phone. He's still talking. Like, I kept checking the time. Like, how many hours in are we? I'm like, okay, that's cool.
And I finished my...
Shift.
Okay, oh yes.
Just shift this way.
Finished my hour lunch, and then loaded up and was headed back from Pittsburgh, which best case scenario is a 4.5 hour drive with a truck. Realistically, without doing any speeding or anything like that. So we're coming back from Pittsburgh and talked the entire way back from Pittsburgh, and we never. If you followed the transcript, it would drive you insane. I think
we went all the way around the mulberry bush. Yep,
we did. I mean, we talked about men's fingernails.
I started talking to him
and like
at
what that meant.
9 p.m. and I hung up when the sun came up the next morning at 6.
My phone died.
Yes, his phone.
My phone died, and then I
thought that was it. I said, "Oh, there goes his phone died." So he
I know, and I like, plugged it back in to charge it because I just was like,
this is a good way out. My phone died, and I'd be like, I understand. That's
well, and it was a case of
it's been a long night.
No, my phone just cut off, and then I was like, well, let me just call her back or text her or do something just so she doesn't think that like I'm just like I was like, well, I mean, it was like mid sentence and it was, and I was thinking, I was like, well, let me just get some life in the phone and call her back just to tell her. Like, I didn't make a new exit ramp somewhere, I'm fine.
Alive.
I'm alive. Because I was coming down Route 5, actually, literally, like, right on top of Woodyard Road when the phone cut out. And we called back, talked for maybe another 20 minutes. But had that not happened, probably would have basically been on the phone for, I think, 7 hours uninterrupted.
Yeah.
It was
a whole work day.
Yeah. I mean, I covered like 350 miles in that time, 400 miles.
Talk to someone that far into the next day. That's just like.
Yes. And then we had.
And then it was the day after.
It was that Saturday night.
Yes, because that was the thing. I'm going to jump in here because I talked to him, for 7 some hours. And then I got up and I went to my parents' house. And my dad was like, oh, I like your hair. How long did that take? I said about 7 hours. He was like, oh, how do you know that? I said, because I was on the phone with Jeff for the whole time. And he was like, you did what? I said, I was on the phone with Jeff for the whole time. Doing what? I said, talking. I was like, the boy has a lot of words. He has so many words. And he was like, yeah, he does. I'm like, yep. And that was just about it. I wasn't really sure what he was thinking at that time, but I was just like, I have nothing to hide. We were just being friendly. I was having an innocent conversation about, well, literally everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything. And then, so I was over there, and then I was going to leave, and I said, well, I'm going to go swing by Jeff's. Like, after talking to him for 7 hours, like, almost you took a break, and you're going to go over. He's like, he has to do the thing with the car. So, he has to do the thing with the car. Sorry, it was a text message. So I went over there so he could do the last.
It was the final. It was the final drain and fill.
Yeah.
And I think we spent even more time talking than doing anything, because I think this time I might have heated the fluid or did something a little bit different.
Yeah.
But basically it took nowhere near as long, and we spent even more time talking. And I want to say you were over there for... It
was light when I got there.
And it was dark.
It was dark by the time I got home. Because We filled it, and then we went for
Took it for a drive.
We went for a drive.
Yes.
The first time I drove, and this time Jeff was like, "Can I drive it? Just I can,
just to feel.
I can feel it." And I was like, "Do whatever you want."
Like, sure.
So we went for a drive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, very random.
Yeah.
Conversations, but we got onto relationships.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I had gotten out of a relationship, and that and that I just didn't know like what God was doing or what.
Mm-hmm.
That people had kept telling me, thank you people who did keep telling me that I was such a great catch.
Mm-hmm.
And God has someone so very special for you. And in my head I was like, but I don't think I'm as like bright and shiny star as all these people are talking about. Like, I'm not that great. And then I paused and I was like, no, actually, I am fantastic. I am wonderful. I would make some man a really great wife and mother to his children. I'm fantastic, Jeff. I'm fantastic. And he was just like, okay. I was like, I don't know. Okay. Well, maybe I just won't get married. Like, if this is how people view me, whatever, people view me, if this is the Lord's plan, then that's fine. Like, yeah, because I do feel like in my singleness, like God is still using my story to just be out here and be happy and fabulous and single. Mm-hmm. Sorry if that sounds a little bit prideful, but I feel like girls need that, especially not just the younger ones, but the older that you get, where you have someone who is single, who is taking care of herself, who is loving life and not just moping in a corner, and also doesn't look like she just, I don't know, gave up on being desirable. Hope that's not really offensive to anyone, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, I am happy in my singleness, and I'm not like turning up my nose to like, no, marriage is not for me. No, I very much would love to get married. I would. I hope that was in the story that God had written for me, but I wanted the story that God had written for me and not the one Allison wrote for herself, because that never turns out quite so well. Yeah. So I'm like, so you know what? If the Lord has me just to be single and just to live this life as an example to whoever is watching me, I get it. And I just hope that I live it out the best that I can, and that the Lord will give me strength through it, because I don't know, maybe apparently I'm not enough for some or way too much for the other ones. I don't know. So I'll just be single. Mm-hmm. And I said all those words and probably way more. And Jeff was just like,
at this point, it was the one that I really wanted to pipe up and say something, but it was, I mean, literally, it was like, oh, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. This is going to make this weird. This is going to make this weird. Be quiet. It was when she was like, oh, I guess nobody wants me. And I was like, oh, I'll tell you, I can't speak up right now. This is at which point the weird just goes right off the end of the scale. So we had that night. We parted ways. Mm-hmm. Then went to church the next day. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there the whole time thinking, I've got to say something to her.
I knew something was going on, but I didn't know what it was.
I was interested.
What is he doing?
But at the same time,
why does he keep putting his hands in and out of his pocket and sitting and standing and sitting and standing? I'm like, you leaving or you going?
No, I was tired. I had stayed on a night's schedule. And so I hadn't really slept much. And on top of it, I was just kind of fidgeting from, like, I got to say something. I got to do something. And I'm like, this just has all the hallmarks of being weird. She's going to live across the street, and she's going to go the other way to leave and come back just so she don't have to drive past me. We're going to move out, move back home just so you don't have to be down there with that weird dude across the street. So took her out in the corner of the parking lot, which gave everyone driving past a great chance.
It also made me a little concerned.
Yeah.
Because he said he needed to talk to me over there. He just did that man thing with the head over there. And I was like, okay. So I went to where I thought over there was.
And then it was keep walking.
He kept going and kept going.
Just further and further into the woods.
I said, Jeff, are we going into the trees? He's like, no, not the trees. I'm like, okay. Just checking.
Away from where everyone can hear you scream.
Yeah. That's what it started to feel like.
So then I told her how I felt. I thought she was really great. I said, but at the same time, I said, I'm not ready to date anyone. I've got some things of my own I need to work on, but at the same time, I know we can't spend the amount of time that we've been spending around each other, continue to do that while dating other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, I know for me, I would be jealous by that. That would really make me feel insecure.
Side note, I was very much talking to several different men, but only online dating, again, COVID. But at that time, which I think I had mentioned to you.
You had made some subtle mentions,
Yeah.
and it was a case of, I was kind of like, well, hey, look, I'm not going to sit there and try and tell someone to wait and sit around and sit on their hands and wait until I'm ready to do something. If she finds somebody and she makes a move, oh, well, that's bad timing on my part. So, yeah. And there was this whole, it was a whole, and it was very awkward. And you could tell probably by the looks on our faces that we were having a somewhat serious conversation in the corner of a parking lot, and you had everybody and their cousin driving past.
Because they were leaving church and they were just trying to figure out
why there's two people standing up. There's no cars parked over there, no nothing. We're just standing over there like we're having a serious conversation. Anyway.
My dad drove by.
Yes. He drove
rolled
by.
Rolled out the window. Y'all good?
Y'all good? Yes. So fast forward, that was middle of January. I want to say right in the middle of January.
I call that the end of season 1.
Yeah.
My inner
that
circle,
was the cliffhanger ending.
My inner circle knows that I broke our relationship down into seasons unbeknownst to Jeff. Because the whole thing about the whole neighbors, old friends getting together. I call it the Hallmark movie. Then we called it a Pure Flix movie. If you guys know about Pure Flix, it's basically the equivalent of Christian Hallmark movies.
Yes, even more Hallmarky than the Hallmark movies.
Yes. And so I'm like, that's what we're in. I'm like, well, maybe it's not a movie. Maybe we're a TV series. So I started breaking it into seasons. Mm-hmm. So this is what I call the end of season 1. Was that conversation in the parking lot? Because it was that's where they would end a TV series.
That was very much after saying
what are they gonna do? Where is this relationship going?
Stay tuned.
Friends?
Are they friends? Are they maybe more? Question mark?
Okay, I'm gonna pause. Not pause.